today's open Q&A with Jade Raymond on Assassins. So Jade, I'm going to begin with a very simple question.
Hi everyone.
So can you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, your history in the gaming industry, and what you're doing on Assassins.
Hi, my name is Jade Raymond, as you just said, and I'm the producer on Assassin's Creed. I've been working on Assassin's Creed for over 2.5 years now. When the game shifts, it'll be 3 years. And my background is art and computer science. I started out as a programmer at Sony. That was my first official job after I finished computer science. And I've been in the game industry ever since. I moved up, after Sony I moved to EA for a little while and I was a producer there. And I also tried out a startup, so I tried out the little company and came to Ubisoft because I thought this was the coolest opportunity there was.
Okay, perfect. And before we get into depth, I'd like you to, if you can, give us a kind of quick overview of Assassin's Creed's story. Tell us a little bit about the scenario.
Okay, so as the title implies, you play a master assassin. Your name's Altair. The inspiration for the story came from the actual clan of assassins. They're a real historical group that came to be around the Third Crusade, so around the time when the game takes place, which is 1191, the summer of 1191 is very precise. You start out as a master assassin with all your abilities, and your first mission you mess up. So basically you go back to see the head of the assassins, and he downgrades you to the beginner rank, takes away all of your stuff, and he says in order to regain your standing within the assassins and our confidence in you, you have to basically prove yourself. So your mission now is to stop the Third Crusade, just a little easy mission. Go and take out these key 9 guys who are basically profiting from the war and, you know, kind of help the population out because they're really the ones who are suffering. So you started on this quest across the whole Holy Land. It takes you through Jerusalem and Damascus and Acre and the countryside in between that's ravaged by warfare. And as you take out your targets one by one, you uncover that there's something a little bit different going on. You uncover that somehow the targets are somewhat related, and it eventually leads you to a revelation about what your actions are, which I'm not going to spoil for you.
So, I mean, I guess the natural question for me to ask now is why the Crusades? What inspired you to start with that point in history?
Well, from a gameplay perspective, purely, the Three Crusades is a really cool environment for an action-adventure game. I mean, we have really, really narrow streets, bustling with people. We have, obviously, the gruesome setting of the medieval warfare with obvious targets on both sides. Being an assassin is also a cool standpoint because you're not part of the Third Crusades. You're not part of the war. You're not on either side. You're a third party who has the ability to go in and impact it. So there are the story sides, just being inspired by the assassins themselves and the richness of that setting and their history. But also just the gameplay opportunities of having these narrow streets and being able to deliver things that we couldn't see on old consoles, like free running in these narrow streets and interacting with the crowd in these narrow streets, and kind of the expanse for the course too.
All right. Well, now with the gameplay, actually, as you mentioned it, let's say that we're players, we're all gamers, and we've been playing the game for around an hour. What in that hour have we done? What have we discovered? What's the gameplay like?
Well, I have to tell you that the first hour is going to completely surprise you when you play it, because the first hour of gameplay is a lot of the stuff that we haven't talked about yet, so I can't really go into detail about it. But I will, for gameplay purposes, take you through a basic assassination mission. So you get your orders from Sinan. He may sometimes give you a list of 3 names, sometimes 1 name. Let's say there's someone that you have to go take out who's a slave trader, thought to be located in Jerusalem. What you first have to do is get over to that city and find your local bureau leader. Your first part is going to be really investigating. So you have to find out where this guy is, what he's all about, information about him, why he's your target. Once you've gathered all of the information, and there's some mini game play in that, like you have to pickpocket sometimes to get information, other times you have to beat the information out of people, other times you eavesdrop. Once you're prepared enough, you go back and see your bureau leader. And he says, okay, right, you have all the information, you're ready to go. And he hands you a feather, which is your signature. And that means you're ready to go. So then there's an approach. You try and infiltrate the area where the target is. There's obviously diversity. Some will be outside, some will be in their lair, some will be in huge fortresses with hundreds of guards, and it's going to be super, adrenaline, like fight-based. Others are more acrobatic challenges. But it's always up to you how you choose to do your approach. Then there's the key moment of assassination, the pivotal moment really where a lot of the story unlocks and the cause for your actions unlocks. And then there's a part that we don't often see in games, which is really where we've put a whole lot of emphasis, and it's super fast-paced, is the escape. So your mission doesn't end once you kill the guy. There's the whole aspect of getting out alive, going back, making sure that you've lost the guys who are pursuing you, that they forget where you are, and then getting your way back to the bureau and giving the feather back to say, proof, like, here, I completed my mission.
That sounds awesome. Now, about still more gameplay, is this going to be an open universe? Can I do the missions in whatever order I decide? Can I go where I want to go?
Yeah, it has a lot of the sandbox philosophy built in. So these cities are huge and completely open. There's no path through them. There's no particular order. And actually, I talked about arriving in a city and going to see the bureau to find out, to kind of figure out where you're supposed to gather information. But if you want, you don't have to go to the bureau. You can just start exploring the city and try and eavesdrop on the conversations and figure out your bearings. But as our creative director, Patrice, says, it's not a pure sandbox game. It's more of, he says, bac à fleurs for people who speak French. It's kind of a flower box. So it's really guided always by the story, but in this open environment. And what creates the gameplay throughout every single, like the core gameplay loop throughout every single thing, whether you're completing an assassination mission, trying to do a pickpocket, or just, doing side missions or just having fun in the city, is really the concept of social stealth that we've been talking about since E3. And it's this idea that the crowd and the military are creating the gameplay all the time, and it's your actions that can trigger these sequences where all of a sudden they realize that you're an assassin, and this, a crazy chase or fight sequence or whatever can ensue until you calm everything down, hide, and people kind of forget that you're there, and then you can go back around your business.
Actually, you brought up the crowd, so I'm curious. Can you tell us more about the crowd mechanism, like how that's really going to function? Is it always going to be chase? What can you tell us about it?
So crowd is one of the, I think, buzz features for next gen. Everyone saw that next gen has this great opportunity to have tons of AI, and so we went AI crazy, and we're like, crowd's going to have all this stuff. The idea with Assassin's Creed is that the crowd isn't just window dressing. I mean, they do all have their individual things that they're going to do and needs, and they'll do interesting things when you're not doing gameplay. But what's most important about them is how the impact. So they have a second-to-second impact in the sense that we've modeled real physics and how you interact with them. So just physically, if you're in an escape mode and you're running through the city, they'll create obstacles, dynamic obstacles that are moving around. So if you're running full speed into a big group of people, they're going to create a blockade. You're not going to be able to get rid of them. You're going to go falling over, and they're going to get in your way. There's also elements of the crowd that behave a little bit like traditional level design traps. So for example, there's some drunk guys, there's beggars, there's certain elements of the crowd you're going to start to recognize, and they all have a particular gameplay functionality. So the drunk guy who's stumbling around, and if you get too close, he's going to push you over. If you are trying to get in somewhere sneakily and not draw attention to yourself, and you see a drunk guy over there, you may want to take a different route, because if you get pushed over, that's going to attract attention to you. The other thing that's really important and key to point out about the AI and this whole social stealth thing is the military, is the state of the military. And the interaction between the crowd and the state of the military is really where a lot of the interesting stuff, a lot of the interesting gameplay circumstances come out. Basically, military at first are unaware. So they don't know there's an assassin in town. Another state they have is suspicious. That's the state where they don't really know there's an assassin in town, but they know there's a guy doing something weird, and they're going to pay attention to that. They put their hand on their weapon. They're like, maybe this guy's up to no good. And then there's a state which is informed, and that's when the military knows there's an assassin in town. He's dressed in white. He's climbed buildings. There's like a wanted poster out. And basically, as you play through the game, if you've done assassinations in a city, the state of the military will evolve. So, for example, at the beginning of the game, if you can climb up a building and, the crowd will go, okay, what's he doing? Is he crazy? The military is going to kind of look and be suspicious, but they're not going to go attack you because, there are a lot of crazy people and it's a third crusade and they have worse things to worry about. But later on in the game, after there's been an assassin around and the crowd points out, hey, there's a guy climbing the wall, the military will look and then they'll go, it's the assassin.
Okay, well, actually, you led me to my next question perfectly, but before I ask my next question, Altair is a very charismatic character. He's somebody that we all want to know more about. What were your inspirations?
Well, there's obviously the clan of the Assassins, but when you're creating a main character for a game, you also want him to be bigger than life and have substance and not be an assassin like the, let's say, other assassins we've seen in other games, and also not just be like the other members of the clan. He has to have a backstory, he has to have a personality. And so the team spent a lot of time thinking about what is it he's doing, what's his gameplay. And if you think about what he's doing, it made us think of a bird of prey, basically circling around, looking for your target, picking the key moment, swooping down, and then getting out. So all of the development for Altair was based on a bird of prey or eagle. So if you look at his outfit, it's got on his hood, he has a little point so that when you look at the shadow, it looks a bit like a beak, and the flaps flip up. So when he's doing his moves, like free running, which also seem very agile and kind of almost bird-like, you'll see the flaps flip up, and that will create kind of the impression of wings. And actually, even the name Altair means the flyer in Arabic.